Hello, and welcome to Nerdverse Unshuffled, a geeky podcast where we introduce you to the language of board games. We are your hosts, Jacques van Heerden and Fayyaad Hendricks. Okay, welcome back. So we just had a very short discussion about which game it is that we're going to use as an example, and it turns out that I have not in fact played this game, but it is the number one game at the moment. It's ranked overall 1, and it's also rated as the top strategy game. And it is Brass Birmingham.
What you'll get when you go into one of the individual game pages, right, is you'll see the box cover on the top left. And then next to it, you'll see whether it's what the rating of the game is according to the scores from across BoardGameGeek's website. And they'll also tell you how many times it's been rated. So you can see that Brass Birmingham has got 46,000 ratings. It has a short précis of the game, in this case, build networks, grow industries, and navigate the world of the Industrial Revolution. It's also at the top, its rank, whether it's re-implemented by something, whether it re-implements something, and you can see that it re-implements Brass Lancashire.
Yes.
And then beneath that, it'll tell you the player count, the time, the age, and the weight of the game. And then beneath that, you'll get alternate names. And some games have some really bizarre alternate names. Sometimes translations, who the designers are, the artists, who published it. And then there's a bunch of buttons underneath that for, if you want to buy a copy, they'll get affiliate kickbacks from that, which you should do because it helps, maintain Geek's servers so that it's not held together by spit and duct tape. And there's a button next to that called Sleeve It, which is very, very, very recent. And we will get to that when we talk about sleeves in another episode in future. If you are a subscriber if you have an account at BoardGameGeek, you'll then see if you have this game in your collection, how many times you've played it, if you log the plays, and you can subscribe to alerts about it and so on. And then there's a lot going on one page. And there's images, there's a description, there's awards that the games have won, if they have won any. And rules videos. There are videos and reviews, rules, and then you get games that are similar to it, and then each game has its own forum section. So this is above and beyond the whole site forum. So BoardGameGeek's forums have a lot of sections. There's women in gaming. There's a section for designers. There's sections for different parts of the world. There's just people talking about games and education and so on. But there's a lot going on in the forums. But then each game has its own forum. It's a lot. And then there's a list of files attached to each game as well. And sometimes it's as simple as just the rule book of the game. And sometimes people go out of their way to do a lot more. So they'll make player aids, they'll make strategy guides, they'll make they'll make augmented rules. They'll add some games that for some games that do not support solo play, people will make solo rules for games, and some of them are really, really good.
In fact, and one of the I've actually uploaded files to the page for the page for Arkham Horror 2nd Edition because I didn't like the rulebook, so I rewrote the rulebook or reorganized it, and I uploaded the files. It's great.
There you go.
So even you, dear listener, can upload files to this. It's great. It's a great way of sharing, your passion for a particular game, or maybe some improvements that you've made, or just ideas for how you would teach it to people. One of my favorite things to download is actually player aids, especially for games that don't come with them standard. It's a great way of just going hey, so we're going to be playing this game, and I want my friends to be able to have a good time, and I love flowcharts. Flowcharts are, for me, a great addition to a board game, especially if there's a complex decision matrix that you need to kind of have or think through. And it's a lovely way to make a game come alive and just make it easier for people to get into.
If you go to games such as Ticket to Ride or Heat, Pedal to the Metal, the file sections also contain swathes of maps, extra boards that you can play on if you are willing to print them out yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a whole range of information that you can find in those file sections, and it's very easy to miss, which I think is why we're making a big deal out of it.
It is easy to miss. And on top of that, the sections in the site or for each game will also list all the expansions for the game if you're into expansions, like I am. And you'll see also, versioning information. There is a lot of information about an individual game within BoardGameGeek. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, but it's also it's lovely because you get so many, like, there are so many people from different areas, but completely different levels of experience, and sometimes people just really gravitate towards one particular game. And if you're really enjoying a game and you want to maybe like connect with people who are playing it, or you've got some rules questions, it's like, well, and I think this is how this works and I'm not quite sure, then like the forums and the file section is a great place to go.
In fact, the files section is fantastic if you are looking for game rule errata.
Oh, right, yeah.
They put that as well. They say, watch out that they don't always print the errata, but they're there. The other thing that I find quite useful in forums is people come in and ask, hang on, we think we found an exploit for this game, and we think it's broken in some way.
Yeah.
And quite often, this is the coolest thing, right? Quite often, the game's designers exist in the forums for those games.
Yeah.
And they will happily answer your questions. So if you have like a question about Scythe for some bizarre reason that hasn't really been asked in the forums, James Stackmeyer is there and will answer your question quite often.
Yeah. And I mean, it's great. It's a lovely way to find community wherever you are. And basically, I think we can't say enough about it. But let's move on. So there's also a lengthier description for each game. So they'll give you some history. They'll give you some more information about what the game plays like. If the designer is well known, they'll probably make a mention of his previous work. If it's a re-implementation of an older game, it might mention that. And then on the right side, there's a whole section about classification.
Oh, it's a Data Geek's complete dream.
Yeah. So you'll see there that there's actually a section called mechanism, and it'll list a number of the mechanisms that are in the game. It will, like, we've gone through and we've added a lot of those mechanisms to the book. There's also a couple of them that we've got in the book that aren't on that list. I mean, there's a bunch of like idiosyncrasies about how they've organized things. Like if you look at the family list can get quite idiosyncratic.
I've got huge problems with the family list.
Yeah, I mean we've looked at it and went like, really? It's like there's a family called Cities Birmingham (England).
Yes, to differentiate it from Birmingham anywhere else.
Yeah. There's 8 games in that list.
I mean, the fact that there are 8 games featuring Birmingham, England is
and
I
you won't believe it, but there's actually a Monopoly Birmingham.
Monopoly Birmingham. I just spotted that now myself. I love it
They
so
have
much.
no shame.
I think there's a Monopoly for every single country or every single town on this planet.
And they all look exactly the same.
They do.
Okay, so there is no community wiki, surprisingly, for cities Birmingham, but there is one for Brass Birmingham. So there is some justice in the world. Continues to be offended for a few minutes. Yeah, and then there's a link to the official site. There's also what I find quite useful is, especially if you're dealing with people who are still maybe too young to read. So there's a thing about language dependence.
Yeah, that's always good to know.
Yeah. There's some community statistics as well. So how many people own the game? How many people have wishlisted it? How many people have got copies for trade?
Yes, if you're into buying and selling off the BoardGameGeek website.
Yeah, and then there's a section about suggested retail prices, availability from various resellers or stores. It's a really useful way to find out if the game's actually available anywhere. Like, I know Brass Birmingham is still available, I think, pretty much everywhere, but
it should be, yeah.
But some of the older games you might struggle to find.
Yeah. And there's a fair number of games that the company has gone out of
business.
There's quite a few games that the company has gone out of business, and obviously the games are now no longer being printed or sold. So what exists in the world is literally all there is of that game.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, Glory to Rome.
Oh yes.
That game is not being produced anymore. Although the game is available to print for yourself if you so wish. But official copies of Glory to Rome are rare.
Yeah. Yes, they are. I mean, it's not primarily the site you go to find or to buy games. But if you wanted to know if a game is still available, then it's kind of generally what the kind of price range is. It's a good place to start, maybe. But I think what a lot of people are going to find even more useful is going to be the videos section, which includes reviews and how to play videos. So teaching videos. So if you want to play like a more complicated game and you want to make sure that you've interpreted everything correctly, it can be a useful way just to find an official how to play video, or maybe someone who's like a very experienced board game teacher, like Rodney from Watch It Play.
In fact, for our board gaming group, we tend not to do the dreaded teach before the game. What we do is during the week we'll send the video around.
Yes.
And that gives people enough of an idea of how to play it, so that you're not spending the first hour of the game night teaching.
Exactly.
You can just kind of get into it, barring 5-10 minutes for clarifying questions.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody is. I mean, I certainly have found that I struggle sometimes to give a proper explanation for a game. So it's nice if people have done a little bit of research beforehand or a little bit of prep.
I am famous for forgetting rules during a teach, which is why I prefer to send people the videos so that I do not have to remember the small edge rules that inevitably come up.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we will at some point have to do an episode about the teach,
Yeah.
because there's a lot to cover there.
Mm.
Yeah, and then there's like we were saying, reviews. There's a section that lists games that fans of, in this case, Brass Birmingham have also liked, which is Gaia
Yeah.
Project and Great Western Trail and Terraforming Mars and On Mars and Kanban.
Yeah. All my favorite games.
Yes, but again, not necessarily going to be for everybody.
No, and not absolutely not a shopping list.
Not a shop. It's still not a shopping list.
So when we say do your research, this is what we mean.
Yes.
And I mean,
There's quite a
like I
lot.
said, there's an insane amount of information for each game.
Yes.
I think we should move on a bit.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about one of my favorite sections of the site is the BGG store. So if under the shopping menu, there's a BGG store link.
Oh,
And
yes.
BoardGameGeek has its own shop, and it ships around the world mostly.
Oh,
And the really cool thing is that they do a lot of upgrades for
Yes.
your games. So a big thing that they sell is what they call the geek bits, and it's these almost like hardened plastic components. So games where you normally would have to deal with baggers and baggers of cardboard tiles or cardboard pieces, they do these beautiful, chunky, plastic ones, which just feel good to play with.
Yeah.
There's something about the tactility, because board games are primarily a tactile experience.
Yes.
You want, the best tactility money can buy you, and
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with BoardGameGeek's geek bits. Those are phenomenal pieces.
Yeah. So that's not the only thing you can get there. You can also get prints. For example, we were just talking about Brass Birmingham. You can buy an art print featuring the artwork, or featuring art. It's not the artwork from the official box art. It's sort of inspired by, or it's a take on it. But if you really love a board game and you kind of want to make it a theme in your board game room or whatever it is, your gaming room, you have options.
And then on top of that, you can also buy promo packs. So a lot of games come with,
Oh,
it's
yes.
a small promo pack, 1 or 2 cards here, 5 cards there. And they don't add a heck of a lot to the game. And sometimes it's literally just an aesthetic change. But
Yeah.
they're there, and you can get, these promo components.
Yeah.
They're really cool. And some of them feature like celebrities in the board game world, like famous reviewers. They'll feature the famous designers and so on.
Yeah.
For example, the Final Girl game, there's a promo featuring Paula Deming, who's she's a reviewer with the Watch Played crew.
Okay.
And she runs her own comedy channel as well, called Things Get Dicey. She's quite cool. I like her a lot.
Okay. Huh. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't think we're going to go into the shopping too much.
No, there's a lot. Browse it yourself. It's
Yeah. There,
I'd be shocked if you don't spend money there.
there is also the Board Game Geek Con. Is that what it's called? BGG Con?
BGG Con.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you ever get around to visiting that, please let us know. I would love to hear back from somebody who's actually gone to attend it. But yeah, it sounds like it's a great amount of fun.
And then, I suppose we'd be remiss in also then not mentioning that BoardGameGeek has 2 sister websites, RPG
Right.
Geek and Video Game Geek. And they do pretty much what BoardGameGeek does, but for tabletop RPGs and video games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I actually have a couple of. Well, I have spent some time on both of those sites, but
Mm.
obviously with the with the podcast and everything, this site has been a real lifesaver.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the other thing we should probably mention is the log play button.
Yes, that's a good one.
So for example, if you go to any of the board games that you like, there's underneath the explanation for or the summary of the game,
Yeah.
next to sleeve it, add to collection, there's a log play button, and you can click that, and after you've played a board game, say on a Friday evening with some friends, or a Tuesday night, or whatever your board game night is, you can click there and you can keep track of which game it is you played, who you played it with. You can make some notes if you want to. You can note where you played.
Mm.
It's a good way of keeping track of whether you've actually played a game, because as we saw,
And whether you liked it.
but yeah, that's definitely something that's also worth checking out, especially if you're starting out, because it helps you keep track of, okay, well, I have actually played this, or okay, I played this, but I didn't really get it, or I love the
And again,
artwork.
if you're a data nerd and you love data things, then you're going to absolutely love, logging your plays and logging, how many times you played it, who you played it with, who won,
Mm,
who was who was what color. I log all these things, just by the way.
yeah,
It's unnecessary to the entire experience, but it's good to see. Oh, well, out of this many games that we played, Jacques has played green the majority of them.
yes,
It's such a weird statistic that nobody will ever need in their lives, but it's there.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
look, we've been playing for a lot longer than I've been logging plays on BoardGameGeek.
yes.
I mean, I've only really, really started logging in earnest within the last, was it 4 or 5 years?
Mm,
And there's a ton of games that obviously because I never logged it, I just don't have the stats from it.
yeah.
But for example, if I look at what I've got since I've been playing, since I've been logging my plays with you,
Mm,
like I have got a total of so I'm just looking at the stats here.
okay.
That I've got a total of 232 plays logged against you,
Wow. Okay.
of which you were the winner 31 times.
Hey. Well, it wasn't just the two of us. I mean, we played with other people as well, right?
No, true. Yes,
So
absolutely right.
just to put that out there, it's not like Fayyaad has beaten me X number of times. Okay,
No,
just wanted to make that clear.
but then I mean, I've logged 831 of my own plays,
Mm,
right? Of which I've won 180, which is it's a stupidly small amount. It's like
uh,
just under a quarter of the games I've played have I won. But um,
okay.
just the fact that you can track this information on BoardGameGeek.
Yeah. Um,
But yeah, I mean, the fact that you can, look at these in BoardGameGeek and you can say, oh, well, there's, there are other sites that will analyze the metadata again and will
mm,
tell you what your most played category of game is, what your most played mechanic is, which artists you have a lot of in your collection.
yeah.
So BoardGameGeek itself doesn't do all this, but
No.
there are other sites that will do it for you as well. And I mean, BoardGameGeek makes its API open so that other sites can hook into the data and check out what you're doing.
Yeah. Um. So I think that brings us to how does this jargon help us? But I think this whole episode has been about how this jargon helps you. Um,
Yeah. I think this should have been, fairly self-evident how it helps you.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I suppose the big thing to realize about BGG is that it actually is much bigger than just the search function and a very comprehensive list of games. But it has to be said, it's like it's incredibly comprehensive.
But it's a massive site.
But like you were saying at the beginning when we were talking about the search bar, it's very important to know that there is not just it's not just searching by board games. If you click on board games, if you click on the search in the search field and you click that drop down list, I mean, you can search by artists, you can search by designers, publishers, accessories. You can search the forums for things. You can search geek lists for things. You can search the wiki. Wiki is really useful.
Yeah, it is.
And the other thing to do is make some friends. So if you've got a couple of people that you play board games with, like Fayyaad and I have got a couple of friends that we play with, like add them to your friends list on BGG, and you can tag them in games that you play together.
Absolutely.
You can keep track of like, okay, well, I've played this game with Fayyaad and Brett and Dummy, but I haven't played it with Mustafa or Candace or Joe or Ethne or whoever. And I think they'd really like this, or I must make a note to never play this with Dummy because he will hate this.
Yeah. I think we got off track here again. What were we saying?
Keeping track, making friends.
Yeah, or enemies if that's what you want to do. I mean,
if you insist.
You do you. We don't judge.
Well, we judge. We judge a lot, actually. We're quite judgy.
Enemies to friends, friends enemies. Go for it. It's your make the site your own, as it were.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that about covers BoardGameGeek. We've covered a lot.
Yeah. So that is the official end of the jargon episodes for this season. We are doing one last episode just to recap and look at what we've talked about and maybe look at things in a bit broader, look ahead to what we're doing next year. Or not next year, next season.
Next season.
Next season is much sooner than next year. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to get back to some of those questions that Joe sent us. And I think there may even be a couple extra ones by now. But yeah, we're just going to hang out. We're going to talk about board games. We're going to talk about the podcast and what's coming up. And we hope you'll join us. If you have any questions for that episode, please let us know. Send it through. You can email us. You can join Discord. You can leave a comment on any of the YouTube podcasts. Look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Happy gaming.
Happy gaming.
Thank you for listening. You can follow us on various platforms and join the conversation on Discord. Links in the episode description wherever you found this podcast. You can find articles and discussions about the terms used in this podcast over at nerdverse.co.za. You can also find articles on a host of other subjects including tabletop role-playing games, interviews, events and how-tos. Your hosts were Jacques van Heerden and Fayyaad Hendricks. Music, editing, producer Fayyaad Hendricks. Executive producer Jacques van Heerden. Unshuffled is a Nerdverse Productions podcast.